Strap in, the round-the-world adventures continue. This leg takes me from Rio de Janeiro to Madrid in Iberia's business class. A flight that promises Spanish style, solid comfort and a touch of long-haul luxury. But does Iberia really deliver on service and sleep at 35,000 feet? Let's find out. Welcome to the channel. With over 20 years of business class flying and more than 1 million miles in the air, I've seen it all at 35,000 feet. Now I'm taking things to the next level, an unforgettable round-the-world journey in business class, from London through Asia, across the Pacific and into the Americas. Join me each fortnight as I dive into every detail, the luxury, the letdowns, and honest reviews of each flight experience. Love travel, aviation, or just chasing the thrill of the skies? Hit that subscribe button and join me for the adventure of a lifetime. My journey began at Galeão International Airport in Rio de Janeiro. Iberia flights departed from Terminal 2. The check-in desks were located in Zone I at one end of the terminal. There were dedicated desks for business class passengers with only a short queue. In the week I flew, Iberia operated 5 services between Rio and Madrid. The check-in process was slow, mainly because I spoke neither Portuguese or Spanish. The baggage allowance was 2 checked bags, each weighing up to 32 kilos or 70 pounds, with maximum dimensions of 158 centimetres or 62 inches. That's the height plus width plus depth of the case. No priority tags were added to the bags. From check-in you then walk to the other end of the terminal to reach security. There was no priority for business class passengers at either security or immigration. After security you then walked around the outside of the terminal, behind where the check-in desks had been, through a maze of shops and bars, up escalators and along a long corridor to finally reach the American Airlines Admiral Club, which Iberia business class passengers could use. The lounge was pretty empty, with my flight being one of the few remaining One World flights of the day. There were a range of sofas and armchairs and a small dining area. A self-pour bar was available, together with salads, desserts and some hot dishes. In another section of the lounge, cold meats and cheese were available. From the lounge there were good views out across the airport apron. From the lounge it was quite a walk to the gate, which was at the end of the pier. The captain had the right idea and got a buggy ride to the gate. There weren't very good views of the aircraft. It was an Airbus A330-300 aircraft, registration Echo Charlie Lima Uniform X-Ray. It was 12 years old. The gate area was busy but well organised, with separate queues for each boarding group. Business class passengers were in Group 1. However, it was a nice touch that One World Emerald passengers got to board in Group 0, meaning I was one of the first to board the aircraft. There was a separate air bridge for business class boarding at the very front of the aircraft. Business class took up the front cabin of the aircraft with 29 seats in a 1-2-1 configuration. Seats in alternate rows were staggered to the window or aisle. I was towards the rear of the cabin in window seat 6 Alpha. The seat had a width of 20 inches and could recline to form a 76-inch flat bed. It was a customised Stellia Solstice seat. Beside the seat was a fixed counter and a small storage compartment. In front of the seat was a footstool and a fixed entertainment screen. Beside the seat was an armrest and controllers for the screen and seat. Below the armrest was another small storage compartment. There was also some storage space below the footstool. The seat was fairly comfortable, with quite a lot of surrounding space. An amenity kit was provided in a Therese Helbig bag. It contained a dental kit, hand cream and lip balm. There was an eye mask and a very soft pair of socks. Overhead, there was plenty of storage space for luggage. There were overhead reading lights, but no individual air vents. Beside the entertainment screen was a coat hook. Next to the seat at floor level was a USB-A port and a power socket. While the window seats were good, the aisle seats were very exposed. Water, juice and carver were offered pre-departure. The carver was very good. The doors were closed and the air bridges retracted ahead of schedule as the safety video played. We taxied from the terminal along the airfield to take off from runway 10. We arrived at the runway at 19:24. As we take off, it's time to thank my supporters in the Doors to Automatic cabin crew. Just £4 per month gives you early access to reviews and other behind-the-scenes content, including the next episode of this series, which is already available. Head over to Patreon to join the cabin crew. The flight time from Rio to Madrid was scheduled to be 10 hours and 20 minutes. The route would take us over the mid-Atlantic, crossing Africa from Dakar to Casablanca, before arriving in Spanish airspace near Cadiz. Shortly after takeoff, a hot towel was provided on a small dish. I checked out the entertainment system. Fairly standard business class headphones were provided. At first, the entertainment system wasn't working and had to be reset. The 15.4-inch touchscreen was then pretty sluggish to operate. Content-wise, there was an okay selection, with 79 new movies, 117 TV series and 207 audio albums. Wi-Fi was complimentary for business class passengers. Otherwise, it would have cost €22.49 for the entire flight. It provided download speeds of 28 megabits per second. About 40 minutes after takeoff, orders were taken for the meal. There was no separate drink service. On the menu was a choice of 2 starters, marinated chicken or grilled vegetables with mozzarella. For main course there were 3 options: pork tenderloin, swordfish or tomato and mozzarella ravioli. Dessert was either cheesecake, ice cream or cheese. The table folded down and swiveled in front of the seat. The starter was served on a tray with cutlery and salt and pepper condiments. 2 bread rolls were also served. Wine was served in proper wine glasses with stems. I was offered a sample of 2 different red wines to help make my selection. For starter, I chose the grilled vegetables with creamy buffalo mozzarella and black olive tapenade. A linen napkin and metal cutlery were provided. The plastic salt and pepper shakers had a note saying "Take me home." Hardly the Wilbur and Orville of Virgin Atlantic though. Accompanying the food was a good list of Spanish wines, including a carver, 2 white wines, 3 red wines, sherry and dessert wine. For main course, my first choice wasn't available, so I had the pork tenderloin with creamy paprika sauce, served with mashed potatoes, peas and plums. The meat was very tough and I only ate half the portion. For dessert, I chose the Dolce de Leche ice cream with strawberries and crunchy coconut crumble. Alongside, I was served a cup of tea. Overall, I wasn't that impressed by the food, particularly not getting my first choice of main course, although I was fairly tired at this point. Once the meal had been cleared, chocolates were offered before bottles of still water were handed out. There were 2 toilets in the business class cabin, one at the front and another at the rear. They were a pretty standard aircraft size. No premium soap was provided, although premium hand cream was. A baby changing table folded down from the wall. Information which I'm told Doors to Automatic cabin crew member Joel finds useful. Back in the cabin, I checked out the seat as a bed. A padded mattress protector, duvet and pillow were provided. The bed was comfortable and wasn't too enclosed by the sides. Although with no door, it was fairly exposed to the rest of the cabin. I managed to get a good few hours sleep. About 75 minutes prior to landing, the cabin lights came up as breakfast was served. There was a choice of an omelette and sausage, French toast or fresh fruit. I opted for the omelette and pork sausage, which came with potato roasty and cherry tomato. It was served with a bowl of fresh fruit and a croissant and bread roll. Overall, an improvement on the evening meal, although the croissant was a bit stodgy. I booked my round-the-world ticket with the One World Alliance. The ticket included 9 flights departing from London, flying 28,000 miles and arriving back in London just over 3 weeks later. The business class ticket cost £7,985. Booking each flight separately could have cost as much as £14,185. So at just 28 pence per mile, I thought this was very reasonable for a premium ticket. Soon we were preparing to land as a video was played explaining immigration and transit processes in Madrid. I studied this carefully ahead of my 50-minute transit window. We came into land on runway 32 left and taxied to the Terminal 4 satellite. Overall, I thought this flight was okay. My expectations hadn't been high after my American Airlines flight to Rio, but this was certainly a lot better than that. The ground experience was good, with a relaxing lounge and well-organised boarding process. The cabin was fairly open and the aisle seats were very exposed. Whilst my window seat was still open to the cabin, it didn't feel too exposed. The seat was comfortable and didn't feel too constrained as a bed. The service was very good and the crew spoke excellent English. The food wasn't brilliant and certainly didn't compare to the standards set by Cathay Pacific earlier in the trip. The entertainment system wasn't that responsive, but once I'd found something to watch, it played well. And complimentary Wi-Fi that worked well was a nice touch. This wasn't the best business class flight of this trip, but I thought it certainly held up amongst One World members. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Next time, I have a very short connection time in Madrid. With just 50 minutes between the scheduled arrival and departure, will I clear immigration and make my connection? And if I don't, what happens? Subscribe now, you won't want to miss this one.